Well, that's more like it. It's Christmas. So, I was up, Amy and I were up early this morning. You know, it's not a herd to get up early when the horses raced good yesterday. Me personally, I thought I fell a step short with a couple of them, but that certainly wasn't their fault. It was just the way it shook out. Really happy with the way the horses raced yesterday. Now, we'll get into the horse in a second. I know I'd spoke to Kelly yesterday briefly via text. And she told me we're still a little bit short of even 100 people for the RSVP for the open house. I know it's a little different, you know, you're trying to wind down after Christmas, but my thought on the open house being on the 29th was simple. It would be an opportunity for people in the holiday season that maybe have not been to Ohio before to come over. There's some nice hotels in the area, great restaurants all over the place, and an opportunity to see the operation in Ohio. For those of you in Ohio, you know what it's all about. I think if it's the same as last year, we're going to have a pancake breakfast. Northfield's always pretty good in that regard as far as accommodating everybody. Their staff is fantastic also. We've had nothing but good reviews, both from us and from our clients, in regards to any time they spent at Northfield Park for open houses. So eager to have that. I'll start working on the sets because the next video session you see will be the open house. Yesterday's video session was good. Thought it could have been better, but I think, you know, I had said that last night, and Amy was the one that said, you know, geez, Anthony, you know, they just got corks on, and quite frankly, they only just started training. It's a lot to ask. Some of them have excelled, and some of them are trying to get their mojo going, so to speak. And there are some horses there. I'll tell you what, there isn't any. I didn't see any horses being overly rude. Even horses that I thought should have and could have done it better yesterday. It wasn't necessarily their attitude or poor work ethic. It could be frustration. They always go through. A horse like Royal Duchess went out yesterday, jogged 2 laps, turned, struggled a bit, came in, showed a little mark of blood on her right hind pastern where she needed a scalper, right? She's learning how to go with hobbles on. She's only had them on a week. And those horses had not seen how fast they can go. Like, I've trained Royal Duchess at 2:54. Every horse in our barn has been in under 3 minutes, I believe. I was trying to think of the ones that I think everybody has. I think everybody has trained in under 3 minutes. And have all looked good in their own way. Some of them would look fantastic. You saw Perfection Hanover 2 weeks ago in the video. He looked amazing. Amy said she loves him yesterday, which I was so happy to hear. I was worried she was going to say he was pulling on the left line a little bit. I don't think that's anything serious. We'll look into that a little bit more, but he always wears a Murphy outside anyway. And she said, what a nice horse to go with. Even the horse I went with, Solidarity, I had to explain. I was trying to tell Tyler because he was getting frustrated going. He was making breaks. Made a break on me yesterday. But I could see plain as day what had happened. It was just when he was switching gears. He's a pacer with flip-flops on. And when you go to ask him in places like coming out of a turn, going into a turn, you got to watch yourself. When I started him up the first time, when I looped him at the quarter pole, I let him just gradually grind up into gear. And then once he hit his best speed, I just chirped him, put the bit in his mouth, and let him come forward. Whereas yesterday, coming out of the turn, Joey had me cornered with the little filly. And all these things sound silly, but you know, I take it as if it was a race setting, because I expect all the horses to be able to see what it's going to be like from day one. Joey had me cornered a little bit, and when I chirped to Solidarity coming out of the turn, he just lost his focus. And what happens is when they go to pace or trot forward, pacers, especially pacers, when they go to pace forward, they can narrow up a little bit. And if they box that gate up at all to take off, they're going to be up on top of their quarters. And if they get close to their quarters, they're going to get nervous. They're going to get a little frustrated. Might even scare themselves. And then that's when you're going to see them make mistakes. And if you watch that, even go back frame by frame or just slow it down, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I let Joey get there. I let him get there. As we go to come out of the turn, I go to step forward on Solidarity. Just puts a step in. You can almost see him get nervous and make a break. Now, I could take the flip-flops off him, but I'm not going to. As I said to Tyler, this isn't about being perfect every day. Right? This is about learning. And sometimes, I say this every year, they have to face adversity, right? They have to face training against other horses. It's not going to be easy. Racing isn't easy. In training also, although you're learning, you have to push them sometimes. That's my 2 cents of training anyway. It doesn't really matter. Everybody does it different. All that matters is what takes place next summer. So, I was happy with the way the babies have been going all season long. Now, I did want to talk to you about the open house, so I hope everybody, if you're planning on coming, RSVP Kelly and let her know, because the last thing I want to do is have Northfield say, Anthony, you had 100 people RSVP and 130 showed up. I guess it could be worse. It could have 130 people show RSVP and 70 show up. So I want to make sure that everybody that's coming gets an opportunity to. For those of you who took part in putting the money together for our caretakers for the Christmas, for Christmas, I really appreciate that. I guarantee you they will. That will be doled out today. Now on to last night. Man, it was last night was fantastic. Yesterday in total was good. Time is on my side. The only way I could have won that race in a short field yesterday was to quarter pole him to the front. Now, in hindsight, Hunter said I didn't really want to be on the front. Well, you did leave, and you were the horse to beat. So, and everybody, you see time is on my side. It was 6-5 or 8-5. You're like, he's supposed to win. I'm very aware that he's a 3-year-old about to turn 4, racing against edgy, as I say, battle-hardened, aged horses. And I just didn't want to expose him that way. I didn't really want to be first over either, but being able to wait till almost the far turn allowed me to. I wanted to race him for a quarter of a mile. They got him charted 27-3. That's absolutely incorrect. They said I was half a length back at the 3/4 pole. I don't believe so. Maybe I was. I don't know. Even so, 27-3 in the mud, first over on a cold day is certainly nothing to sneeze at. He raced good. He paced as hard as he could through the wire. Can't ask him to do much more than that. We gave him that easy race his first start, and yesterday was a fairly easy race, but did ask him to pace hard for a quarter of a mile. Now he should be in good shape to do some damage next week. My hope is that the open fills. If it doesn't and they don't use him somewhere else, then we could always take him to Dayton or whatnot. And if we got to scoot him over to Ontario for a week or two, then so be it. Arson's not ready yet. He'll be ready soon. So, really happy with what took place yesterday. Time is on my side was good. Patrick the Piranha a little flat, but better than he was last week. And it's funny because I talked to Megan early this morning. Said, "Hey, great job with Tex. So happy to see this horse come back to life and back to his winning ways and looking good." That was a vicious mile last night. Just a salty first quarter, 26-2, trying to get everybody seated. Dubé kept coming, so he had to let him go. He lets the War Wee horse go, 56-2. He's underway again at the point of the backstretch. That's not easy to ask a horse to do on a half-mile track. He cleared almost instantaneously and never really come off the gas. Won by open lengths, 6, 7, 8, 9 lengths, 54 and a piece on a cold night. That was a hell of a mile. So a great job by Megan bringing him back to life, and so very happy to see the horse come back to life. A great job by her for sure. And then Drebin, I told you guys, it's step by step, right? The changes we made to Drebin over the last 3 months, both going over to the other side of the spectrum, which was, I'll tell you exactly what happened. He arrives in the Meadows. He's racing pretty good, but bumpy, getting into a knee pretty good. We changed his shoes around. I put egg bars and side weights on him behind. He had flip-flops on up front. He was a winner in his first or second start with flip-flops on. No, he was a beaten second or third in his first start. We take the flip-flops off, put normal trotting shoes on him, maybe a 5/8, maybe a 9/16, and put 2 toe corks on the outside because he'll get into his knees. And people don't understand, with trotters especially, and horses that are narrow, when they start to get into their knees, they'll more times than not start to get into their shins or jacks behind, or vice versa, right? They play off of one another, and it ends up being kind of a tough cycle to break. So the first time we raced Drebin, he still spun that knee boot around. If you go back and watch the race that Aaron won with him in 54 and look closely coming out of the last turn, his knee boot spun around. He's into his knee that day. Much like he was 3 weeks ago coming out of the winner's circle with James. He was in, you can see his knee boot spun around. So we're constantly tinkering with his shoes. Well, we put shims on him up front, tip him out a little bit. I don't like just lowering the outside of the foot right away because you can't go back from that, right? If you're wrong and it doesn't work, you can't put that foot back on. So what we'll do is take a little piece of a rim pad, maybe that long and that thick, and we'll put it under the inside of the shoe, and that will tip them out a little bit. It'll help them break over to the outside. He raced good his first start like that. We took the egg bars off and put aluminums on him. Now he's got confidence. Now I think he can race with aluminums on behind. Last week was his first start with the aluminums on. He raced good, closing up second, I believe. And then last night, just unleashed a vicious mile on them. Earplugs in, 54-1 run off. Now you start to see the progression, right? Little by little by little. One, being able to race in a class where you're 8-5, 9-5, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1 every week is so very, very important for a horse's growth. It's hard to do, too, right? Nobody else wants to race against Drebin in that class, but he's a perfect storm right now. He's not quite, well, maybe after last night he was, but he wasn't quite worth 90,000 Canadian. So we were able to stuff him in the 60 claimer, 3-year-old 60 claimer. With his allowance, he goes for 90. Now, January 1st, he goes for 75. Are they going to make that a 4-year-old claimer for 60? I hope they do. Because I can tell you what's going to happen. Somebody's going to reach in and grab him for 60. And we're going to have another horse over there within 3 days to race in that class again. We're not going to hide him. I mean, I know my dad, you think I'm an optimist. I think Drebin can do in the open. Easy now. I don't know what kind of mushrooms you're growing in PEI, but he can't do in the open. But he is making his way to being a much better horse. But we have to be able to foster that. Race him over his head a few times, you're going to see a totally different Drebin. So a great job by James and Dominic. They've done a tremendous job with him. A great job by the horse. You know, and now that you know the chronological order, how everything went with that went into what you saw last night. The Drebin in August is not the Drebin that went on the track last night. And how we got from that point to last night's point, it's impressive. And you know what? It allows everybody to see how horses as athletes progress, right? It's impressive to watch. So a great job by everybody involved with Drebin, whether it be Dom or Tim here, or Jason, you had him for a short time also. All the blacksmiths, all the vets, everybody involved did a wonderful job with this horse. So Tex and Drebin raced good. Patrick, as I said, I started to tell the story. I was talking to Megan last night. She goes, you know, sometimes when they drop down, those classy horses drop down in cheap classes, they come back to life. That's exactly right. 100% correct. And I'm hoping, I don't think yesterday's race for Patrick will turn him back on completely, but if we race him accordingly like that for another 2 or 3 starts, you might start to see a flicker of the Patrick of the past come back to life. I could see that happening quite easily. Also, Ready for Landing race good. I was watching the race with Tim and I'm like, wow, he got away from the gate perfect. He seems so quiet. He's sitting behind the favorite. Now, if the favorite comes first over, we're going to be in a great spot. He did, but he came first over hard at the quarter, cleared, which left Ready for Landing uncovered. I said to Tim, this is not his preferred race, attacking the favorite in first over position down the backstretch. It went from a perfect trip to I don't know what's going to happen next. But he hung in there, he fought on, dropped down to the rail coming out of the last turn, went up the inside, and couldn't quite run down the leader and got beat for second by another horse closing. But I thought Ready for Landing raced very, very well. Happy with the way he raced. And time is on my side, as I said from the outset. again, that progression. I want to see him get better and better. First over is tough to do, but I didn't really move him until we get into the last turn. I asked him to race for just a hair over a quarter of a mile, and he did, and he raced very, very well. And as I said, those are tough horses. Those are good horses. So time is on my side, ready to rock now at the Meadows. The good thing about him is, I was worried you had a 6-horse field with 1 horse scratched. Now, theoretically, you have 5 horses for the Open for next week, or do you? There may be some other horses come along, or, Ronnie had gung-ho scratched. If I heard he tied up, if he tied up and can't race next week, I'm confident that Ron Burke has another horse for the Open at the Meadows. And they race good. The only questionable horses yesterday were the trips themselves, right? Yo Mister off 2 weeks and coming off of sickness last week. He just spiked the temperature pretty good for about 2 days. That's hard on an older horse too. I know, he's only 5. I just mean it's hard on a horse that can't bounce back really, really quick. And it looked like he was in a spot where he could get up for second yesterday, but instead kind of hung out, was 5th. Not a horrible, I think he was 5th. Not a horrible race for him. And I expect him to get better next week. And Spitfire Overseas also leaves, sit in the 2-hole, get jammed up, have to jam him into the passing lane. It's not his jam. It's not his race. It's not his preferred method of racing, that's for sure. It is a blizzard right now. I did not know we were supposed to get this much snow. I think top to bottom, everybody raced well. I didn't look at any race and say, oh, he was bad. Not one. Not one training trip yesterday, and not one race last night. We did change the shoes on Vehement. You'll see Aaron Merriman is driving him on Monday. I'm going to take off right after the Meadows and head home. We'll be home by 8 o'clock if I do that, which is good. That gives us enough time to get settled back in Ontario. And Amy, we're hosting Christmas at our house for Amy's parents. And my family always comes over. Now, Mom and Dad, we're going away on the 5th, January the 5th, that we do every year. Friends and family go away. And that is something I want to talk to everybody about also. I mention it every year I'm away, I mention it. But I often wonder, would the clients of the stable like to go away together? I mean, we've all become pretty close for the most part. You may not know the faces of the people you see or you talk to all the time, but a lot of like-minded people in a pretty strong community we've built within the stable. And I had said to Amy, it'd be nice if we could get away, have a holiday together, all of us, anybody that wanted to come. She shuddered at the idea because Amy's an introvert, right? When she's away, she just wants to be away. I want to be away, but I like when people are having fun around. Nobody wants to go somewhere that's dead or go somewhere and not have a good vibe. And what would be a better vibe than having tons and tons of people around that want to celebrate together. So that is something. It's been on the back of my mind for 2 or 3 years, but I often wonder if there would be an appetite inside the stable to have a getaway together. What's the point of building a community if you can't celebrate it together, right? Anyway, I'm always up for feedback. Every time I say this in a video, whether I'm away or it's summer and it's just kind of out of the corner of my mouth, out of the side of my mouth, hey, what about this? I always get people message me. I assume the same people will, but I'd like to hear from everybody. I think we could probably get 80 or 100 people away, couldn't we? Have to be around March or April, I guess. I don't know when the spring breaks work. Anyway, it's Christmas time. We'll talk about that another day, but it is food for thought, something that I'm always interested in, and I hope you are too. It's been a great year. It's been a great week. It was a great day yesterday. So with that, I'm going to let you go. I hope you too are having a great weekend and a great month, and I hope you're having a fantastic holiday season, because this is the best time of year, and I hope everybody likes it just as much as I do. So take care, have a great Saturday, have a great weekend. I'll get to your videos later on today, but for right now, I wanted to start my day talking to you, as I generally do.